It's election night in America. You've got popcorn in one hand, Twitter in the other, and CNN blaring in the background like it's the Super Bowl of democracy. The polls close, the votes start rolling in, and then nothing. Hours go by. States turn blue, then red, then back to blue, and suddenly everyone on your timeline is screaming fraud, while Wolf Blitzer is just sweating on live TV. And after all that drama, you still don't know who the president is until maybe 3 days later, sometimes even weeks. It's like ordering a pizza, and instead of getting it in 30 minutes or less, Domino's tells you, your delivery will arrive in 7 to 10 business days if the Supreme Court approves it. And if you're sitting there thinking, why does the most powerful country in the world take longer to count votes than I take to binge an entire Netflix season? Well, congratulations, you're officially asking the right question, because American elections are not just slow.
They are painfully, comically, absurdly slow. But here's the twist. They're slow on purpose. Yeah, you heard that right. It's not just incompetence, or old machines, or people falling asleep at polling stations. The slowness is baked right into the system, kind of like raisins in a cookie. Nobody likes it, but for some reason, it's always there. So today, we're going to break this down like you're 5 years old. We'll talk about Point 1. Why American elections are the longest Netflix series ever. Point 2. The weird rules that make it impossible to declare a winner quickly. Point 3. How technology, lawsuits, and cable news have turned voting into a circus. Point 4. And of course, the million-dollar question. Will America ever fix it? Probably not. Because the truth is, American elections are less like a well-oiled democratic machine, and more like a family Thanksgiving dinner. Everyone argues, no one agrees. It takes forever. And at the end of the day, well, somebody storms out of the room claiming the whole thing was rigged. So buckle up, because by the time we're done here, you'll understand why election night in America feels less like democracy in action and more like a 3-day waiting line at the DMV. Picture this. It's the year 1789. George Washington just became president. There's no Twitter, no Fox News, no memes about Sleepy Joe or Orange Man. Back then, elections were so slow that by the time you found out who won, the guy was already halfway through his first term. Why? Because America's founding fathers designed elections like they were designing a horse-drawn carriage. Strong, reliable, but not exactly built for speed. Here's the thing. In most countries, you vote, they count, and boom, you know the winner by the next day. In the US? Nah, that would be too easy. Instead, America decided to add layers of bureaucracy, state-by-state rules, and enough paperwork to make your eyes bleed.
Pigeon. And then at the end, you're supposed to somehow combine all that into one final grade. To be honest now, let's be fair. Back in the early days, this slowness made sense. America was huge, communication was slow, and you couldn't exactly text the results from Virginia to New York. It took weeks for ballots to travel, often by horseback. But the funny thing is that even after the telegraph, the telephone, the television, and yes, even the internet, America never fully modernized its election process because, well, tradition. And politicians in the US love tradition almost as much as they love campaign donations. So fast forward to today. You can order a burrito on DoorDash, track it in real time, and know exactly when it'll arrive at your doorstep. But when it comes to voting for the leader of the free world, sorry, buddy. That'll take 3 to 5 business days, maybe longer if there's a recount. So let's take an example. Take the year 2000. Bush versus Gore.
It's basically a 50-state circus with no ringmaster. And then, of course,
you have the Electoral College. Oh yes, the system where winning the most votes nationwide doesn't actually guarantee you'll be president. It's like running a marathon, crossing the finish line first, and then being told, sorry, we actually score this based on style points. Which is why in 2016, Hillary Clinton won almost 3 million more votes than Donald Trump, and still lost. The Electoral College is the reason your history teacher needed an extra pot of coffee to explain American democracy. So, to recap, America's elections take forever because they were designed to be slow. They're run by 50 states, all doing their own thing. And the Electoral College is basically democracy's drunk uncle at Thanksgiving. But that's just the historical part. Because if you think the founding fathers made things messy, wait until you see what modern America did to elections.
Fast forward to the 21st century. Technology is booming. We've got smartphones, 5G, AI, even refrigerators that can text you. But American elections? They're still running on Windows 95. And when you throw in mail-in ballots, 24-hour cable news, and armies of lawyers? Congratulations! You've just turned democracy into a reality TV show. 1. The mail-in ballot mess. Mail-in voting sounds simple, right? You get a ballot in the mail, you fill it out, you send it back. Easy. But in America, nothing is ever that easy. Some states allow ballots to be mailed weeks in advance. Others only count ballots that arrive by Election Day. Some count as long as they're postmarked by Election Day, even if they arrive days later. Translation: you can have ballots trickling in like Amazon packages on backorder. Election night happens, and then for days after, more votes keep showing up. It's like announcing the winner of American Idol, but then adding, oh, by the way, more votes might arrive next week, so stay tuned. And of course, every time new batches of ballots come in, both political parties immediately start screaming fraud, because apparently counting is suspicious now. 2. Endless lawsuits and recounts. Remember that Bush versus Gore fiasco in 2000? Well, since then, America has learned one thing. When in doubt, sue. Every modern election is followed by a flood of lawsuits. Ballots are challenged, machines are questioned, lawyers swarm like mosquitoes in July. And recounts? Oh boy, recounts are like replaying a video game level you already lost, but hoping maybe this time the ending will change. Spoiler, it usually doesn't. Fun fact, the average cost of a statewide recount in the US is around $3 million. Imagine spending millions of dollars just to confirm you still lost. Back in the old days, people would just wait patiently for results. Today, ... CNN, Fox, MSNBC, they all have glowing maps, dramatic theme music, and anchors pointing at giant touchscreens like it's the Super Bowl of maps. Here in Pennsylvania, if these 5 people in Scranton decide to vote by mail, and if the wind is blowing east at 20 miles per hour, and if Mercury is in retrograde, then maybe, just maybe, this state could flip. It's like watching ESPN commentary, but instead of athletes, it's about suburban moms in Ohio. And then there's Twitter, TikTok, Facebook. Every half-baked rumor, every blurry photo of a ballot box, every conspiracy theory spreads faster than the actual results. 2020 was the perfect example. One side said mail-in ballots were fraudulent. The other side said voter suppression was happening. Meanwhile, the average American was just like, can someone please just tell me who won so I can go back to watching Netflix? It's democracy, but with more memes than facts. So let's take the example of 2020 elections. On election night, Trump was leading in several key states. Then mail-in ballots started getting counted, slowly. States like Pennsylvania and Georgia flipped days later. By the time networks officially called the race for Biden, it was Saturday. Saturday, 4 whole days later. In some states, counting dragged on for weeks. And during that time, America basically split into 2 groups. 1, people glued to their TV screens, refreshing maps like addicts. 2, people who just gave up and said, text me when it's over. So why exactly does this drag on for so long? Because every state has its own counting process. Because mail-in ballots take longer to verify, signature checks, envelopes, etc. Because recounts and lawsuits stretch everything out. And because news outlets would rather be first than accurate, so they cautiously project wheres instead of just waiting. It's like a never-ending group project where So at this point, you might be asking, okay, but if everyone hates how slow and messy American elections are, why don't they just fix it? Great question. Short answer, because fixing it would mean politicians losing the chaos that benefits them. 1, states' rights. The classic excuse. In America, states love doing their own thing. It's basically their favorite hobby. Some states ban plastic straws. Others let you buy fireworks big enough to start a small war. So naturally, every state insists on running elections their own way. That means 50 different systems, 50 different sets of rules, 50 different ways to screw things up. It's like if Starbucks let every store make their own version of a Frappuccino. In one store, it's coffee. In another,
It's just milk with glitter. But they all insist, no, this is how we've always done it. 2. Politicians benefit from the mess. Here's the dirty little secret. Chaos actually helps politicians.
When results are delayed, both sides get to play the blame game. If you're losing, it's fraud. If you're winning, democracy works perfectly. Delays give politicians time to spin the narrative, fire up their supporters, and rake in more donations. Yes, that's right. Every hour the election drags on, politicians are out there sending emails like, "The system is rigged. Donate $5 right now to help us fight back." It's less about democracy, more about democracy. 3. Old machines plus outdated tech. Let's talk about voting machines. Some states still use machines older than the people voting on them. Like, literally, there are voting machines from the 1990s still being used today. Meanwhile, other states use high-tech scanners, iPads, and QR codes. The result? Half the country is living in the future. The other half is basically using a fax machine. You can literally Venmo someone money in 3 seconds. But casting a vote in America feels like filing your taxes during a T. 4. Fear of change. And then there's the classic American fear. If we change the system, someone will cheat. Suggest online voting? People scream about hackers. Suggest standardized machines? States scream about control. Suggest faster counting? Politicians scream about fraud. So instead, they keep doing things the old way, slow, clunky, and full of delays. Because in America, the motto is basically, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And if it is broke, still don't fix it. Because fixing it sounds suspicious. 5. Polarization equals paralysis. Here's another reason elections stay messy. Because the two major parties can't agree on anything. One side wants to expand mail-in voting. The other side wants to restrict it. One side wants more drop boxes. The other side calls drop boxes Satan's Amazon lockers. So every reform turns into a political food fight. And while they fight, nothing changes. It's like arguing with your roommate about cleaning the kitchen. The dishes just pile up. But hey, at least you won the argument. 6. The American love of drama. And maybe, just maybe, America secretly likes it this way. Think about it. If elections were fast and boring, what would cable news even do? What would Twitter scream about? What would late-night comedians joke about? Dragging elections out keeps everyone glued to the screen, keeps ratings high, keeps donations flowing, and keeps America at the center of global attention. Because nothing screams world's greatest democracy like not knowing who your leader is for a week, and then arguing about it for the next 4 years. So let's summarize this whole beautiful disaster. Elections are slow by design. Every state does its own thing. Politicians profit off the chaos. Machines are outdated. Nobody trusts change. And secretly, everyone loves the drama. At this point, American elections aren't broken. They're just American. Messy, loud, dramatic, and somehow still functioning. Like your uncle's old pickup truck that smokes every time you start it, but still gets you to work. So will America ever fix its election system? Probably not, because chaos is the point. But hey, at least it gives us something to watch every 4 years that makes the Super Bowl look calm. So, there you have it. American elections, the slowest, loudest, most chaotic show on earth. A system that takes days or weeks to do what other countries pull off overnight. And yet, despite the drama, the lawsuits, the screaming politicians, and the never-ending cable news maps, somehow, eventually, it works. The votes get counted, a winner is announced, and the world keeps spinning. It's kind of like waiting for your Wi-Fi to reconnect. It's slow, it's frustrating. You threaten to smash your router into 1,000 pieces. But in the end, Netflix does come back on. So next time you're watching election night coverage and wondering, why is this taking so long? Just remember, it's not a bug, it's a feature. America's democracy was built to be messy, and maybe that's part of its weird, chaotic charm.
Subscribe for more chaos.